Hi, and welcome back to the Retired Psychiatrist channel. Today, we're going to continue to explore the shonen anime Hunter x Hunter, this time taking a look at the character arcs of both Gon and Meruem during the Chimera Ants arc storyline. First, take a look at this concept of the Chimera ants. This is a species that reproduces by eating, and in the process, it imparts characteristics of those creatures it ingests to the next generation. The interaction within the species is structure in a colony like social structure organized around a queen. And everything is going well and functioning smoothly, and everybody is fulfilling their role in the colony until the queen begins to consume human beings. The next generation now shares some features of human beings, including, well, memories of their previous lives, but also and mainly language. And with language, the development of ego. Once that happens, everything changes. Some of the uh, characters of this generation now begin to have their little schemes that do not necessarily align with those of the queen, and that's when things start to go astray for the colony. Now, in terms of the species, the ultimate goal of the queen is to spawn an ant known as the king, and this is where Meruem enters the picture. Meruem is the name of the king that's born to the queen, and he's served by the royal guard, composed of three very powerful chimera ants. The duty of the king is to mate with female of other species in order to breed the next generation of queens. And when we first encounter this character, he is a cold-blooded killer that has no empathy and can only see others as either subjects or prey. But he doesn't relate to other subjects as in any meaningful way, besides seeing them in one of these two ways. And one of the greatness of this arc is the beauty of the transformation of this character, because this is a process that authors often get wrong. They start with a very evil character, and that's supposed to suffer a transformation for the better, and that process and those results are seldom convincing, because it's often done as a moment of illumination where the character was either saved by love or the power of friendship or whatever. In a single moment, he flips a switch and goes from being this evil character to someone that is now redeemed. And that is never convincing. I think the greatness of what Togashi did here was to show a process through which Meruem went from this character that we first encounter to what he eventually became. And this is where Komugi enters the picture. Komugi is this character uh, of a girl that Meruem encounters, and she is beyond special. She's meek and selfless. She cannot be because she's selfless. She cannot be intimidated, and it's the first time that Meruem encounters someone who bests him on any task, specifically the game of Gungi. And this is what starts the transformation of Meruem, because, and this is so brilliant. It was really jaw dropping the first time that I saw the anime, because Meruem now is trying to beat Komugi at Gungi, and in order to do that, he has to try to anticipate her moves and decipher her strategy. The way to do that is to start putting himself in Komugi's shoes. So he has to see things from her perspective. What would be her best move here? What is she trying to achieve? And so forth. Now, once you start putting yourself on someone else's shoes, that opens the door to the development of empathy. Empathy arises when you can put yourself in the other person's shoes. So once Meruem begins to understand the way Komugi thinks, and eventually he can understand her suffering, we saw that scene where she is attacked by birds, and he empathizes with her and tries to put an end to that and save her from that situation. She begins to understand her love for the game and her overall gratitude towards life. Now, while this is happening, while empathy is being developed, remember Meruem genetic program is still running and unfolding and developing, and it includes the drive to mate with females of other species. So he's never really aware, he's not fully conscious of what's going on. He doesn't understand what is going through, what is going on, or the changes that are taking place within. But that combination of libido and empathy develops into love. And for the first time, he can relate to someone as an equal. And that leads to Meruem's acquisition of humanity, the emergence of the humanity in him. He can now think beyond his own needs and begin to see others as something other than subjects or prey. And that development of humanity is rewarded with a meaningful and peaceful death, which is what we see at the end of the arc. On the other hand, we have gone and, like we saw on the previous Hunter x Hunter video, where we examined the psychology of NEN users as an emitter, Gon has a determined and simple personality where words and actions are often dominated by their feelings. They're not very good with planning or complicated thinking. In Jungian terms, he would be an extroverted feeling type. So, on the one hand, we have that. On the other hand, we have what I'm calling the shonen mentality, which we find often in this genre, where if you put in the effort and act without doubts, you will get the outcome that you want. It's overtly optimistic and unrealistic take on life where everything is going to be okay in the end, no matter what happens. And what happens in the Chimera Ants arc is that Gon lost someone that was precious to him, the character of Kite. In fact, in the manga, Kite is the one that puts the story into motion. He's key, and he's a super important character who introduced Gon to the world of hunters, as well as serving as a connection with Ging, which is Gon's father. So, in a way, we can guess that Gon was seeing Kite as a proxy for his father. And when they have to leave Kite behind, Gon is unable to even consider the possibility that Kite has died. He has the shonen mentality that Kite is okay, he couldn't have died, we're gonna go back there and we're gonna save him, and everything's gonna be okay in the end. And what we see in this arc is what happens with this shonen mentality is faced with loss and failure when someone who cannot even accept the possibility of failure and loss and defeat is faced with these outcomes. And what happened to Gon when faced with these outcomes was the loss of humanity. I think that this is Togashi's warning to the world of manga, shonen in particular, that you got to be careful with the unrealistic expectations you're creating in this audience. This is a very vulnerable audience that's easy to impress. Shonen is directed at males between the ages of, I would say, 12 to 15, 16. Form the bulk of the audience. And what he's saying is, what you're doing here is dangerous. You're conveying the message that everything is going to be okay if you put in the effort, and that's not realistic. And if that's the attitude with which you face the world, you cannot even conceptualize the possibility of failure or loss when it happens, and it's going to happen in the real world. You're going to you're going to lose your humanity. You're going to crumble. Your psyche is going to disintegrate. So the irony of the arc is that as Meruem is developing his humanity, Gon, which is the hero of the story, is losing it. As Meruem dies in peace, once he reaches that humanity, Gon is willing to die in hate and pain. And also, in terms of the species at large, as Meruem considers mercy towards some of humanity the goal of Netero until the end, and the Hunter organization at large is, until the end, it was the total extermination of the Chimera ants. So, let me know your thoughts on this subject below. Feel free to comment. I hope to see you next time. And as usual, thank you for your time.